welcome to the Whisky.com news on the 3rd of July 2018. And we have a number of very interesting news. First of all, from Scotland, the BenRiach Distillery has a new whiskey. It's the 20-year-old Temporis. Temporis is Latin and means time, which is a bit unusual because usually the distilleries from Scotland name their whiskies in Gaelic language, but this time, for some reason, they used Latin. Yeah. It was matured in virgin oak, in ex-bourbon barrels, in PX sherry casks and Oloroso sherry casks. It's 46% ABV. It was not colored, not chill filtered, so it's an expert whiskey. So the next news from the USA, kind of USA and EU, because we had the battle between Donald Trump and the EU with the tariffs. So Donald Trump did the tariffs on steel and aluminium, and now the EU did their counter tariffs and they targeted whiskey. Most of the press wrote bourbon. It's not true. It's also all the other whiskey. So we have normal bourbon, but we also have Tennessee whiskey, and it's also with rye whiskey and blended whiskey and all the other whiskeys. So what does the EU exactly do with that 25% tariffs? They do 25% on the value. What is the value now? And I do have a bit of background knowledge, and I'll explain it to you. I know Jim Beam takes their whiskey from their plants in Kentucky, ships them over with a tanker into Europe, and then bottles the whiskey. So Jim Beam and I estimate that Jack Daniels is doing the same because they just have so much volume. I estimate that they do this, and the value of that stuff is about less than €1, which is about, I don't know, $1.10 or something like that. So the tariffs on that will be $1, so it will be about 25 cents tariff. So not really much. And when we look at other distilleries, there's a bit of an other situation going on. So when, let's say, we have a Willett or a Koval, which are smaller distilleries, and I take Koval for an example because I know Koval. They are situated in Chicago, and they have their own bottling line. So they bottle their stuff in Chicago and then palletize it and put it in a container and ship it to Europe and sell it to a wholesaler in Europe. The problem is that they sell that whiskey for a certain price, and that is then considered the value. And this price also includes the bottling. It also includes the what you call it, the label, the marketing, the distribution cost, and also their revenue, their profits. So we do have a higher price here. So it's about, I don't know, big bottle will be something around $15, $20, $30. So we have also a tariff of about $1, no, $2.50 or something like that. $2, $3, something like that. So there is going to be a much higher tariff on expensive whiskey than on the on the big batch whiskeys, because they can ship that stuff in a cheap value form. But now we have special whiskeys like the Knob Creek. The Knob Creek is not such a high volume whiskey. It's a low volume whiskey. And the bottling line is exactly at the plant in Kentucky. So this here is also palletized and sent to Europe in big pallets. So at this point, they will have to pay higher prices for these smaller bottlings as well. So when we sum it up, we definitely know that the low volume whiskeys or low volume bottlings will rise in price. For the high volume bottlings, we're not that quite sure. So the tariff, the most sold whiskey in the EU is with low price supermarket whiskey. So the tariffs will not have the income that the EU thinks it will promise, because they can go around the tariffs. And the small ones, the enthusiasts, probably have to pay some bit higher price, but it's not such a big market. Yeah, it's a bit of a dilemma. Hopefully we'll find a solution to not have these tariffs in the future. And let's continue with some better news. There is a new distillery in America. It's called the Alltech Distillery. The Alltech company opened the Dueling Barrels Distillery in the east side of Kentucky. It has 3 pot stills. It wants to produce 40,000 barrels per year, and it was just opened last week. Also, it will be a distillery with a visitor center, so they want to join the Bourbon Trail 2019. So if you're planning a summer vacation in the United States, then maybe you want to drive over to Kentucky and see that new distillery. If you're there, make some pictures, send them to me. I still need some. Yeah. And the last news is from Germany. Big accident happened. A lot of bad news about whiskey this week. So there was a milk truck and a whiskey truck, and they collided, and they made a really big mess on the Autobahn 6. Yeah, luckily nobody really got hurt, and very lucky it was just a cheap blend, so we're not really caring about that, not our whiskey. Yeah. Thank you very much for watching. If you found this video interesting, then please feel free to share it with your friends, and see you next time.